Hi everybody, this is Matt. Welcome back to another episode on the interwebs. Well, we all like firearms. That's one of the reasons why you've subscribed to the channel or you're watching the video. I want to talk about some of the things that we love, that we have a passion about when it comes to shooting sports. And one of them is the way that we like to tinker with a gun, to make it our own, to make it shoot the way that we want. That's one of the wonderful things that we have about this sport, this hobby, or vocation for that matter. And as an example, I'm going to use my Ruger MKIII 22LR. I have used one of these things since I was probably 15 years old. And yes, back in the day, a 15-year-old could shoot this. At least back in my day. And what have I done to this? Well, I have made modifications to it for me, to make it mine. And you can do the same thing. How many times have you picked up a Glock and you didn't like the sights on it and you changed them out? Well, I did the same thing here. For one, I put a fiber optic front sight on here. Two, I've got a rail so I can mount a red dot whenever I want to use a red dot. Three, I put in a Volquartsen accurizing kit, which consists of a new mag release, a new trigger, a new hammer, a new sear. And I also put in a bushing to get rid of the little pesky magazine catch. So, firearms unloaded. Here's an empty mag. Let me show you something. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the Ruger, on the Mark IIIs, when you go to release that mag, a lot of times you would have to take your thumbs and get in here to get the silly thing to come out like that. Well, that's one of the reasons I put the bushing in there, because I wanted to do that. Matter of fact, I wanted to do that, and it does. I also wanted a much lighter trigger because this is my target gun. This is my rimfire competition gun. So I want it set up for me. I want it set up ergonomically so it works for me. And I'm going to tear this thing down and show you the inside of it and what all I did to it. And for those of you that own Rugers, I can hear that groan right now going, oh, that's just such a nasty thing to take apart. Well, it is, until you've done it a few times. But let me show you what at least works for me, and we'll get on with it and start tearing this baby apart. Here the Ruger is stripped down. I've taken off the hand grips just so you can see what these actually look like if you've never witnessed one before. And you'll also notice I'm wearing gloves, which is a standard practice of mine whenever I'm working on something like this. And like I said, I can hear the groan out there because you all know what's coming next. I use a safety pin to get in here and to remove this guy. Lift this up, this rotates out, and then you just simply pull down on it. This comes away, and then out comes your bolt, and here we go. It really is that simple. Now, in reassembling it, you're going to have to bang on this guy with a hammer. Hate to tell you that, but that's just the way it is. Now, I have a little method that I use to cheat, and I want to share that with you. I'm going to hold my glove up here, and can you see the overhang between the barrel and the lower frame? Right there. Well, how I cheat is I take my digital calipers, I lock them into position, and I've already come up against this guy, and I fix it in place to where it needs to be. And by using this, I can get a lot better alignment when it comes to reassembly, then that way I'm not going past. Well, what's the next thing we have to do? Well, we've got to take a hammer to it and knock it off. So this is the point where a lot of people end up cringing, but it's okay, we'll get through this. So just give it a few taps. and voila, off it comes. So there's your barrel, and here is the lower. In order to install the Volquartsen accurizing kit, I had to gut the entire thing. And this is something that is not for the faint of heart. When in doubt, go to a qualified gunsmith. That involved the removal of the trigger, the plunger, connector, installation of the new magazine release, installation of a new hammer. This bushing that you see here replaced that pesky little magazine safety. And let's see if we can rotate this up here so you can see it. And the new Volquartsen sear is right there. So it's a very good rig, works extremely well, and I have no hesitation whatsoever at recommending this to anybody, because if you want this to be an excellent target gun or a competition gun for rimfire, I really do believe that this is your ticket. Now, it is tricky to reassemble if you do this on your own, because especially here where you have your safety, if you notice, oh, let's see, right here, see that little ball? There's a ball there that acts as a detent, and there's a spring, and this can fly across your shop if you're not careful. So take your time at it, but like I said, whenever you have doubts, go to a gunsmith. The Volquartsen trigger has a different angle on it than the standard Ruger trigger. It is adjustable for over travel, and then right here you can see that it is adjustable for pre-travel. So it's going to take out some of the slack as well as the over travel. And I have it set up for the way that I like it. Your mileage might vary, but at least this way you get to see the internals and what that job looked like. I really appreciate the quality of the machining of the Volquartsen parts. I can't speak highly enough about it. Now, let's put the thing back together, shall we? In reassembling the Ruger Mark III or Mark II or Mark I, one of the keys is this little tang right here has got to be over this. And let me get it up here so you can see it. If that is not sitting over there, come down here with my screwdriver so you can see that blade. If that isn't sitting over the top, that's going to be a huge point of contention for you. So anyway, I just make sure that everything is the way that it should be there, and then I can just simply take my barrel, put my barrel back on, and then we bring out the hammer once again, except we want to use gentle pressure on this. Sometimes after these have been worked on enough, you can just literally push them into position, but this does not want to cooperate. So tap with a hammer. Make sure that you're using either a rubber hammer or a Delrin hammer to set this, because otherwise you can end up with all kinds of problems. All right, right now this isn't even hardly flush. And I'm sneaking up on it. I'm going to check it with my gauge. Nope. That looks closer. Nope. Closer yet. Let's see. You know what? That might be good to go. One way that we could tell is we can run this guy up in here just for a second and make sure that the holes match. Now this is my method. Yours might vary, and it looks like we've got a decent fit. Okay, I'm going to make sure that that is down. I'm actually going to stick my finger in there, get that hammer down so that's behaving the way that it should. I'm going to hold this up. That goes in there smoothly. Now for the fun part. Fun part is getting this in there, making sure that you're keeping tension on that spring, and also making sure that everything is lined up. And this is what drives a lot of people crazy. And I don't know if you could see it there on camera, but that little guy shifted on me. So let's do this. And I'm just going to push on it initially and see if it wants to go. And there it started, and that's always a good sign. And with enough judicious use of force, making sure that that guy's still there. Sometimes you can just simply coax this up there on its own, but that's only if they're loose enough. And this one is not. So it's back to coaxing. And by coaxing, I mean with a hammer. So light taps. Frankly, I'd be holding it a little bit different, but I'm doing this for the camera and your benefit. I'm going to verify that that is down. And it acts like it wants to go, but it doesn't. So that's when we bring out the old hemostat. And I'm going to come up in here with the hemostat. I'm going to grab that little tang, and I'm going to pull that down into place where it should be. So what I've done is I took my hemostat, made sure that I pulled that tang into the proper position. I'm holding pressure back on the trigger. As you can see here, I have spring tension, which is exactly what I want. If this falls in freely, then that is bad. So I'm going to push that in, and then I'm going to rotate that guy into position, and we should be good. So the next thing we do is we function check it, put the safety on it, we're good. Well, I know that that was very quick, and it didn't quite show all the full disassembly of this Ruger MKIII, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to show you some of the modifications that we typically will do to our firearms to make them behave the way that we want. And for those of you who have been frustrated by getting one of these things apart before, I would go to Ruger's website. They have a technical section with videos that covers the complete assembly and disassembly. Read your manual, but also look at Ruger's videos because they're extremely informative. I know that when I did it, I made it look pretty easy, but you've got to understand, I've been doing this for a long time. But I'll tell you one thing, and I've said this to many people, if you can take one of these down completely to the frame, like I did with installing the Volquartsen accurizing kit, you can do about anything in gunsmithing because there is so much involved here. If you've done this, feel a great sense of accomplishment. You're worth it. Until next time, everybody, be safe out there and have a good one.